3, 2, and 1. Steve's on his way up. Looks like Serenity's on her way up. Kareem, you got ready to go, dude? Cool. Okay, we'll get to it in just a second. Okay, we've got a video we're gonna watch first. Okay, so just clarifying, everyone does have a grammar packet, right? There's no one that I missed this morning when I passed those out. We should be on day 80. Does everyone see that on the front? Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna start off with watching a video. Hey guys, listen. Okay, so we're gonna start off with watching a video this morning, and that's gonna be over, it's called Synonym Symphony. So let's watch this and then we'll go over it, okay?
Synonyms always agree. They like to live in harmony. Synonyms mean the same. They help the writer to explain. It's time to start it, not at point or begin. My mind can learn, understand, or open. I can burn, fold, forget, or draw. I've got my puppy, mutt, canine, or dog. Synonyms always agree. They like to live in harmony. Synonyms mean the same. They help the writer to explain. Watch out, it's hot, warm, boiling, or blazing. Your work is good, great, terrific, amazing. The boy is nice, friendly, helpful, or kind. I use my noggin, noodle, brain, or mind. Synonyms always agree. They like to live in harmony. Synonyms mean the same. They help the writer to explain. Outside it's freezing cold, icy or cool. I wear my rings, frosting, bling bling, or jewels. I pet my feline, kitten, fur ball, or cat. Put on my helmet, cap, sombrero, or hat. Synonyms always agree. They like to live in harmony. Synonyms mean the same. They help the writer to explain. I am now tired, sleepy, exhausted, or done. I've had too much entertainment or fun. I'll call my homie, comrade, pal, or friend. This song is over, done, finished, the end. Synonyms always agree. They like to live in harmony.
She's here somewhere. She had a meeting or something.
They help the writer to explain.
Okay, so based on that video, what we've talked about previously and gone over and over again, can someone give me a brief explanation on what a synonym is? Hunter, what's a synonym? Two things that are mostly the same, right? Are they always identical? Do they always mean the exact same thing? Right, so a synonym doesn't have to be a word-for-word match, right? It can be something that's very similar or something that means the same thing, right? So Tyler, can you give me an example of a synonym or two synonyms?
There, and there.
So those are homonyms, right? So homonyms are things that sound the same but are spelled differently, right? So we know that there are three theirs. So Tyler's talking about T-H-E-I-R, T-H-E-R-E, and T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E, right? But those all three mean different things. So Tyler, can you give me two words that they don't look the same, but they mean pretty much the same thing? What was an example from the video?
Happy or glad.
Happy, glad, excited, right? So all of those words, they mean slightly different things, but for the most part, they're all in that general umbrella of happy, in a good mood, stuff like that. So there's that. Carter, can you tell me an example of a synonym?
Intro or first. The starting.
Sure, yep, exactly. So, Trey, I'm not going to ask you for examples. What I would like for you to tell me is, why is it that we need synonyms? If we can have, if they all mean the same thing, why can't we just have one word for it and be done with it? Any idea? Callie, can you help them out? What would be a reason that what's a good use for a synonym, or why would we ever need them if they all mean the same thing? I can't hear you. Can you speak up so everyone can hear it?
They don't all mean the exact same thing. They mean just a little bit different.
Right.
So you can't have one word that means all.
Right. So, right, exactly. So Callie's telling us that it's pretty well impossible to have a one word that covers every scenario that we need, right? Even though they mean similar things, right, which is what a synonym means, it's important that we have those different types of words and different uses for each of them so that we can be as descriptive as we can and make sure that what we're doing makes sense with the sentence that we're writing, okay? So we'll continue to work on those. And obviously we have some confusion with synonyms, antonyms, homonyms, right? They all sound similar in the end, but they all do slightly different things, and we'll continue to go over that, okay? With that being said, day 80, we're starting with capitalization. Carter, can you read that sentence for us before we start?
Did Uncle Bill read the Hotel Herald at the Los Angeles Convention Center?
Okay, so with that being said, which words need capitalized here? Chris, what do we need to capitalize?
Did and Bill.
Okay, so Chris is telling us we need to capitalize did. Why would we capitalize did,
At
Chris?
the beginning of the sentence.
Right, we always capitalize the first letter in a sentence, and then you said Bill as well, right? Why are we capitalizing Bill?
I think it's a name.
Right, a name, so it's a proper noun. We always capitalize names. What else with Bill, or a word around Bill, needs to be capitalized? Ella?
Uncle.
Why are we capitalizing uncle? Do we normally just capitalize that word all the time?
No, but if it has a certain uncle.
Right. So if it's a specific uncle, right? So it's not just uncle or an uncle. We're talking about Uncle Bill. So that is actually a part of his name at that point. So we're going to go ahead and underline that as well and show that that's to be capitalized. What else needs capitalized? Archer?
Los Angeles.
Okay, and why is that?
Because it's a name of a place.
It's a convention center. Okay, so Los Angeles in and of itself, if convention center weren't after it, why would we capitalize Los Angeles? Just the same way we'd capitalize Nashville or Helmsburg or...
Because it's a city.
Well, Los Angeles is a city, right? But you're on the right track. So it's a specific place. It's not just any old city. It's actually a specific city, Los Angeles, right? We'd also capitalize words like Indianapolis or Seymour, Columbus, Franklin. All of those words are proper nouns because they're specific places. Okay. So with that being said, Archer kind of helped us out a little bit with that. What else needs to be capitalized around the Los Angeles? Eva? Okay, and why is that?
Because it's talking about Los Angeles.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's not just any convention center, it's the Los Angeles Convention Center. Riley, I'd like for you to stop playing with that divider and pay attention, okay? Thank you. And looks like we've got one more. Arlen, what do you think?
Hotel Herald.
Okay, and why are we capitalizing that?
Because it's a specific hotel.
It's not just any hotel, right? It's Hotel Herald. But if we look there, it says the Hotel Herald is actually a magazine title.
But
So,
it's specific magazine.
right, so even if it weren't a magazine title, we would still capitalize it because Hotel Herald is
Hotel.
sounds like a hotel, right? But in this case, it's a magazine title, so we'll capitalize it as well. Okay?
Probably it's probably a hotel. It would still be capitalized.
Exactly. Yep. So we're still marking it capitalization wise. I'm just saying that in this case, it's telling us that it's a magazine title. But even if it weren't, I would still argue we would capitalize it because it's a specific hotel. Chris, are we done?
Yeah. Can I read the number 2?
Yep. So we're gonna rewrite number 1 in cursive. I'm gonna print it up here on the board. Okay. So let's get that taken care of, and then Chris, you can read number 2 when we're ready. Okay.
Okay.
still see a few pencils moving, so we'll give you a few more seconds on this. I'll zoom in on this a little bit. Can everyone see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's probably a little bit better. Okay, if you're not quite finished, that's okay. Just wrap it up. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to number 2 here. Chris, can you read number 2 for us?
Can I get up when I get stuck on one? Can they help me?
We are here for you if you need us, our friend.
Okay. Here,
Her,
her,
uh-huh.
right here, Anita.
Uncles,
Uncle's friend went to live at 12.
yeah, help him out if you need help, okay?
12 May Street, Mathers, NH, 0, Ayrton. That's it. NH 03253.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect. Chris, I really appreciate you helping us, and classmates, thank you for helping him out. So, we're looking for punctuation, right? So we're not looking to capitalize anything. In this case, we're looking to add punctuation. So, with that being said, what do we think we might need to add here to make this correct? Kareem?
A comma between 12 and 8.
So, remember when we're writing addresses, the number, so like the actual house number or building number, along with the street name are all one piece of information. So we don't put a comma there, but there is a comma that we need to add to that address somewhere. Do you have any idea where that might be? If it's not in between, I'll give you a hint. It looks like they've added a space for us to accommodate that comma.
Between NH and
Meredith.
Meredith.
Yeah, so this is kind of confusing because they've added a space in one spot and not in the other, but that's okay. So we want to add a comma between Meredith and this is the abbreviation, or does everyone know, can someone tell me what an abbreviation is? Eva, or not Eva, Ella, what is an abbreviation?
Like when you shorten a word.
Right, so it's when you take something that is a long word, so New Hampshire is what that's abbreviating, which would be a lot of letters to write, especially if you're writing a lot of letters or a lot of addresses out at the same time. So they've created these 2-letter abbreviations that stand for the state. So instead of having to write the whole name out, you can write just the 2-letter capital letter abbreviation. So for Indiana, that's IN. For Ohio, it's OH. And there's one for every state. In this case, NH is for New Hampshire. So we're going to add a comma between Meredith and New Hampshire, and that's to let us know that Meredith is a city and that New Hampshire is the state. What else do we need to add here?
Wait.
Trey, what else do we need to add? I'm sorry?
The dots at. Wait, no, it's gonna time. Never mind.
Mr. Blue, I'm the family neighbor right there.
So that's a comma right there. Yep. So there's a caret and then there's a comma underneath it.
The parent,
A comma.
Yep, just to show that we're adding the comma. Okay?
if you write it off of there, I guess that one's all too much.
Comma. Okay, Dean, what else do we need to add?
Between the zoo and family, between the E and uncle's quote and apostrophe.
Right, yep, and why is that?
Because it's stating that, well, first of all, uncles, there's not more than one of them. And it's his friend.
So it's telling us that it's possessive, right? That uncle, it's the uncle's friend, not several uncles, right? Like we only have one uncle that we're talking about, and we're talking about his specific friend, which is why we add that apostrophe S to show that it's a possessive form. Good job. What else do we need to add? Serenity, do you have any ideas for us? There's a pretty easy one left. We always add a capital letter at the beginning, and then what do we need at the end of the sentence? Period, right? Yep. Remember, even though we're adding addresses and things like that, we need to make sure that we're still adding all those things in. What else do we need to add? Does anyone else have any ideas? So, I'll give you a hint. It has to do with this address here. We're missing a couple more marks here. Eva?
Because I'm still doing it on my turn.
Do what?
You called on me and then you called on me.
Okay, we'll come back because there's more marks to be made. Yep. So it's not after at, it's inside of the address. Trey, can you help Eva out?
Between Main and Street.
So it's not between Main and Street. So we finished 12 Main Street. And then, what do you think?
Street and Meredith.
Yes. So we're adding these commas to separate the different pieces of information in the address. So if someone asks you what your address is and they're from the same town, are you going to rattle off your city, state, and zip code?
No.
Probably not, right? You're not going to say, yes, I live at 123 Main Street, Meredith, New Hampshire. What, like, you'd only give that information to somebody if you're like asking for them to ship you something from out of state or something like that. If you order a pizza at a local pizza place, you're just going to be like, yeah, I live at 12 Main Street, and they're going to assume that it's the Main Street that's near their facility. It's not going to be Main Street in Bloomington, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. So we want to separate the primary address, which is the 12 Main Street. Then we separate the city, the state, and then we need to add one more comma here at the end for the zip code. Okay, and that's just to make sure that we understand that 12 Main Street is one piece of information, the city is another piece, the state is another piece, and then finally the zip code. Okay, so that's something that it's kind of weird to have an address written in one line like that. Typically what we would do is we would separate it line for line. So we would say Dean Hardin is the name that we're going to. Then you would say 12 Main Street, and then you'd put Meredith, New Hampshire, and then below that you'd put the zip code. That's how you see it on the envelopes all the time when they mail things, and that's normally how it's written. In this case, it's written in one line, which is why you need the commas, okay? I'm going to go ahead and make the executive decision. If you haven't already started rewriting that we don't need to, because we're just adding a bunch of commas. So other than that, I think we're okay. We'll just rewrite this one down below, okay?
No, like number 3.
That's what I'm saying. We'll just do the sentence combining, okay? So this next section is over parts of speech. It says an object of the preposition is the noun or pronoun that ends a prepositional phrase. So in order to find a prepositional phrase, we need to find a preposition, see which phrase and the preposition typically comes at the beginning of the prepositional phrase, and then there's a noun in there somewhere that we're going to try to find, okay? So it says circle any prepositional phrase and then put a box around any objects of the preposition. So this sentence says, rain pounded on the roof of our car. So can anyone tell me what the preposition is in that sentence? If not, I can help us out. Okay, so as far as the preposition is concerned, the preposition in this sentence there are actually 2 of them. So the first one that I see is the word on. So if the word on is a preposition, what is the prepositional phrase? Callie? On the roof, right? So we're going to go ahead and circle that. So then, Callie, if we're looking at that prepositional phrase that you just told us about, what is the object that appears inside of that prepositional phrase? Roof, right? So on and the. So remember we talked about article adjectives on Thursday, and we talked about how there are different words that basically they're just they tie different things together. So if we just said on roof, like that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense versus on the roof is more complete, right? Bailey, are you following along? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put a box around roof, which is going to tell us that that's the object of the prepositional phrase. Okay? So then the second one, the second preposition that I see here is of. So add a line with that being said, if the preposition is of, what is the prepositional phrase? So including the preposition, it would be what? So if the preposition is of, and you said that our car is the rest of it, then the total phrase would be of our car, right? Okay. I guess we'll find out here in just a second, okay? So we've got of our car. What is the object that appears within that circle? Chris?
The car.
Right, yeah, exactly. So of and our are not really objects, but a car is. So we'll go ahead and circle and put a square around that. Okay, parts of speech. It says circle any adverbs that tell how. So I'll give you a hint here. A lot of times you can find adverbs with an ending that appears, not always, but if it does have that ending, typically it is an adverb. Kareem, what are we thinking here? Okay, and how do you know that that is the adverb?
Because it's showing how.
Right, so could we say Mary kissed the child, period? Is that a good sentence?
No.
We could say it, right? It's not an incomplete sentence, but by adding that adverb lovingly, it's telling us more information about how she did it, right? So that's what we're looking for. When we write our sentences, we want to make sure that if we have the opportunity to add something like that, it's always a good idea, and that way it gives our reader a better understanding of what we're trying to tell them about, right? So we'll go ahead and circle lovingly. Are there any other adverbs, or is that pretty well it?
That's pretty well.
Okay. And then finally on to sentence combining, it says the first Russian settlement in America was started in 1809. The second sentence is it was started at Bodega Bay. Ella, do you have any idea how we might combine these?
The first Russian settlement in America was started in 1809 at Bodega.
Perfect. That's a good option. What do you think?
It started at Bodega Bay. The first Russian settlement
With the baby down.
Yep, sorry.
in America was started in 1890.
Okay, so remember when we're combining sentences, we want to try to shorten the sentences to make sure. So that's not incorrect, but I think there might be a way that we could write it with less words. Archer, do you have an idea?
In 1809, at Bodega Bay, the first Russian settlement in America was started.
Okay. What do you think, Arlen?
The first Russian settlement in America was in 1809 at Bodega Bay.
Perfect. So any of those options will work.
I got one.
Chris, you have one?
First, can you read it?
It says the first Russian settlement in America was started in 1809, and it says it was started at Bodega Bay.
And the first Russia settlement started at Bodega Bay at Bodega Bay when in 1709. 1809.
Yep. So we that was a good sentence combined. The only thing that we're missing is the information about that it was in America. Okay, so we need to make sure that we keep that in mind, but not a bad option by any means. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it just one of those ways, and you guys can pick your favorite. Just be sure to write it down below, and go ahead and do that one in cursive because we didn't write the first one. Okay? I'm sorry? Okay, I'll give you guys about 35, 40 seconds to get that done, then we're going to move on.
Okay. The first